Hi, this is Christopher Hobbs, and today we're going to talk about terpenes. First of all, terpenes are very ancient. It's a very ancient group of important compounds from plants and some bacteria, maybe some other organisms. And secondly, they're all built up from isoprene units. And these are small 5-carbon or 5-carbon hydrocarbons. And you're seeing one down here, let me know that you can see better. Here is a typical isoprene unit right here, molecule, and here you can kind of get the impression of it without the carbons and hydrogens. Remember that this is just shorthand for this molecule here with carbons and hydrogens. And so it's kind of like Legos. The plant uses these little building blocks in order to build up a wide variety of these molecules we call terpenes, and they have a wide variety of biological activity. So here is an example here. Here is an example here of a terpene, a monoterpene, which is built up from 2 isoprene units. So it's the 2 isoprene units here are put together head to tail. So here's the tail and here's the head here. And they're put together with a couple of covalent bonds to produce a C10 compound or a monoterpene. And those are the fundamental units, or the smallest units certainly, of the terpene family. And here's an example of one, a limonene. And limonene is a monoterpene that's volatile. Remember that C10 compounds and the little bit larger sesquiterpene compounds, C15 compounds, are the main compounds that you find in volatile oils or essential oils like lavender oil or citrus oil or whatever kind of volatile or essential oil you have. They're all composed of these compounds. So limonene is a very ubiquitous one. It's found in almost all citrus and a lot of other plants as well, and it imparts kind of a lemony or citrusy smell to a plant, or in this case citrus. So these terpenes were found, and they're very ancient, in cyanobacteria. I mentioned that already. Let's go on to the next slide. Here's a slide that pretty much shows the same thing, only it's just stretched out here so you can see it more clearly maybe. These 2 isoprene units are put together head to tail and to produce this C10 compound, in this case limonene. Now there's such a wide variety of terpenes that you can find in plants that do produce them, which we'll look at in a minute, the different families that produce these volatile compounds. Some families don't. And in a typical essential oil, like if you just took a bottle of lavender essential oil, you might find some green leafy volatiles, and green leafy volatiles are very small and very aromatic, and they go off in the air very quickly. They evaporate in the air very quickly and easily, and they're made from fatty acids. And so when a leaf is damaged, there are enzymes that cut the fatty acids up into these smaller molecules, which are very volatile and that smell green and leafy. Such, and that's how they got their name. And if you've ever mowed a lawn or smelled a freshly cut mowed lawn, that green smell of grass that you smell are the green leafy volatiles. And they're mainly used by plants to signal, and in this case maybe when they're damaged or injured. Then you have hydrocarbons, and hydrocarbons are small molecules made up of hydrogen and carbon. But the difference being is that they're not based on this 5-atom, 5-carbon basic building block called the isoprene unit. So they may be of various sizes, but they're still composed of hydrogen and carbon, and they're still quite volatile. But they don't follow the isoprene rule. Like a monoterpene, sesquiterpene, and diterpenes, steroids, carotenoids, and rubbers are all based on the isoprene unit. And so with a monoterpene, it's 2 of isoprene units that are put together head to tail. Sesquiterpene, it's 3. Diterpenes, it's 4, making a C20 compound, 20 carbon molecule. And then in phytosterols, which are steroid ring type compounds, that they look like estrogen and testosterone in animals, but they actually do not act that way. They are not hormonally active in animals, particularly. They might have very, very weak or mild effects, but hardly at all. And that's been shown in a number of studies. A good example is diasgenin, or the ginsenosides, which are plant sterols made up of 6 of these isoprene units, so there's C30 compounds. Then the carotenoids, like beta-carotene, vitamin A actually is a metabolite of beta-carotene in animals. Lutein, but beta-carotene is an orange coloring pigment that's found in carrots, of course, thus its name, but also other plants and leaves. And lutein is a yellow coloring pigment that's found in a number of leaves. And then lycopene is a red coloring pigment found in tomatoes, for instance. And then rubber is a very large polymer of these building blocks, these isoprene units, that could be very, very large. And here on the next slide, you're seeing capturing rubber, tapping a rubber tree and capturing the latex, which then dries into rubber, which is a very tough polymer that is used to make tires and other things. And then you're seeing the yellow coloring pigment, the carotenoid, in carrots, in the orange color here. Now here's a biosynthetic pathway for terpene-like type compounds. First of all, you've got the isoprene unit, which is the basic building block, and then you have the monoterpenes, which are composed of 2 of these basic building blocks, in this case the limonene, and camphor, which is found in the camphor tree. Next you have sesquiterpenes, which are made up of 3 of the isoprene units, such as zingiberine, which is found in ginger. Then you have the triterpenes, which are C30 compounds made up of 6 of the isoprene units, like glycyrrhetinic acid. That's a mouthful. Glycyrrhetinic acid is found in found in licorice, and it has a nice anti-inflammatory effect. And then finally, the carotenoids here, which are C40 compounds, which contain 8 of the isoprene units, and then rubber, which has an indeterminate number because it is a very, very large polymer. Now, monoterpenes, a little closer look at those. Again, they contain 10 carbon atoms. They're built up from only 2 of the isoprene units. They're slightly water soluble, so like menthol, which is a monoterpene that you would find in mint, that will go into solution in a tea. So if you just boil the water, put the mint in, and let it steep for 5 minutes, and then pour it out, let it cool, and drink it, you will taste this cool sensation in the back of your throat. Well, the menthol is stimulating the cold receptors in your mouth, and thus you get that cool feeling. So that is a monoterpene that's found in peppermint oil. So monoterpenes are a major component of all essential oils, and they can occur in many types. There are hundreds of different types. The plant can biosynthetically produce probably, who knows how many, but maybe hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of different monoterpenes and also sesquiterpenes. However, 2,000 sesquiterpenes have been characterized. I'm not sure how many monoterpenes, but many have been characterized already, and probably others yet to be discovered. So it's very highly complex what they can produce. They may only produce half of what they have a capacity for, because remember, they're going to change the prescription. They're going to work from this large palette of all these terpenes that they could produce based on gene expression, making proteins, which then help make or enzymes, which then produce the monoterpenes, or the different compounds, the different terpenes. So it can produce a wide variety, but it only produces a limited amount depending on what they might need at the time. So what they make might be influenced by the environment, by how hot it is, and also by what browsers are around, what leafhoppers are eating them, and then they will change the prescription. They will change the identity of the compounds that they're producing to better fight off bacteria or fungi or whatever. So they have a lot of flexibility in what they can produce. And as you know, if you smell a peppermint leaf versus fennel, it smells completely different. And yet there's very similar compounds in there. In fact, in some cases, identical compounds in both fennel and peppermint. And yet the major compounds are different. So that's why we're able to really smell a sample with our eyes closed and say, oh, that's peppermint, or that's fennel, or that's pine, which have a lot of essential oils. That's because they're very, very unique to the particular plant group. Many of these essential oil compounds can affect the nervous system and the smooth muscle. They relax the smooth muscle tissue in our body, like the uterus, the digestive tract, and the bladder. Now, here's another summary of that essential oils are complex mixtures, which we discussed. But there are certain families that do produce essential oils, and that is the Apiaceae, or the parsley family, Lamiaceae, the mint family, and Lauraceae is the camphor family, or laurel family, and like camphor and cinnamon. Also the eucalyptus family, which has the eucalyptus in it, which all have a lot of essential oil in them, along with tea tree oil as an example. And also the conifers. Conifers tend to have a lot of essential oils in them. So the pine, the fir, cedar, any of those, all of those conifers tend to have a lot of essential oils. Now, one thing you may not have known is that essential oils, when you apply to the skin, say mixed with 50-50 with a fixed oil like almond oil or olive oil, penetrate the skin, and they can carry in heavier molecules. So they're kind of carriers for therapeutic compounds. So, for instance, if you wanted to have an herbal oil or an herbal cream that would help repair your skin and reduce inflammation and irritation of a rash or of a sunburn, you could actually get some green tea extract, which contain oligomeric proanthocyanidins, OPCs, which are the main antioxidant compounds in green tea. That one reason that we drink green tea is the antioxidant benefit, maybe to reduce or slow down cellular aging. So you could mix that with an essential oil like lavender oil, and you could apply, and then of course the lavender oil is mixed 50-50 with the fixed oil, but you could go ahead and put the green tea in there and make a cream and apply that to a sunburn. Now that's going to carry help carry the OPCs, the anti-inflammatory and antioxidant compounds, into the skin, into the capillaries, and help repair the tissue damage there in the dermis. So that's one really interesting effect of essential oils, is they act as carriers. And so other ones, which other monoterpenes and essential oils might have anti-inflammatory, antispasmodic, but also antimicrobial effects and sedative effects. Some monoterpenes also have mild sedative effects in the body. Now let's talk about the mint family. The mint family, Lamiaceae, contains many plants that you're familiar with, like rosemary, sage, thyme, all the mints, oregano, skullcap, and lavender. And they have certain characteristics. They have square stems typically, which you can kind of see here. They have bilabiate flowers. There's one lobe, there's another lobe. And they have leaves that are opposite. Here you might be able to see that. And that the flowers are attached to the stem in whorls. And they kind of encircle the stem here. So those are all characteristics of the mint family, including that most of them are aromatic or smell good, basically. The parsley family, fennel, angelica, lovage, desert parsley, Lomatium species, or parsley seed and root. All of these are used in medicine, and so these are important medicinal plants like fennel seed for digestion, angelica for moving the blood and reducing pain, and so forth. Here's the laurel family. Mainly we think of cinnamon and camphor and bay tree. Those are three that are very aromatic. Avocado is also in this family that we use for medicine. So again, thujone is mutagenic, hepatotoxic. It is used in absinthe. I mean, it is one of the ingredients of absinthe, the hallucinogenic drink that is still available in Europe, but the German government probably other governments too, require a very low level of thujone in absinthe products. And but again, if you make a tea out of thujone, the traditional use of wormwood, then you won't get any of the thujone. It's just not that water soluble. And so you want to just use the traditional brewing method, and then you can get thujone out only in alcohol. So don't really imbibe the alcoholic tincture of salvia or any artemisia like mugwort, or cedar also has thujone in it. So it's the tea infusion is much safer, and that's how wormwood is used as a digestive aid for probably centuries. And here is, still working? Yes, just checking the recording here. This is yarrow, Achillea millefolium, which contains a lot of sesquiterpenes in it. Again, C15 compounds, components of the essential oils. About 5,000 different sesquiterpenes have been characterized in the plant kingdom. They're all produced through the mevalonic pathway, which is a particular evolutionary pathway that plants have worked out to produce not only the terpenes, but a few other compounds as well, but mainly the terpenes. And sesquiterpenes typically have antispasmodic and anti-inflammatory activities. And this is kind of a fundamental for many sesquiterpenes, such as yarrow, which is used to relax the uterus for menstrual pain, menstrual cramping, and also irritation or inflammation of the gut or the urinary tract. All good for any plants that contain these sesquiterpenes in the daisy family. Not any plants, but some have been singled out that are particularly suitable for that purpose and effective, such as feverfew, yarrow, and the two chamomiles. They tend to be very bitter sesquiterpenes. If you taste the yarrow, you can get kind of a bitter flavor there. Those are the sesquiterpenes. And they're very alcohol soluble, but they're also water soluble as well. Some sesquiterpenes can cause allergic reactions sometimes, but I've never really seen it in people too much. Let's go on to chamomile. Chamomile is Matricaria recutita. That's German chamomile. And then there is Roman chamomile, which is Chamomillum nobili. And they both contain sesquiterpenes such as bisabolol and camageline. Camageline is a very interesting compound that's found in yarrow, in mugwort, in chamomile. When you distill the oil, then you get this beautiful blue color in the essential oil. And so it requires heat to turn a camageline, the precursor, into ageline, azure blue. This beautiful blue essential oil, which is probably one of nature's most potent anti-inflammatories. So widely used by herbalists, any herbs that contain it, but especially chamomile. And there's a whole line of chamomile products called Camo Care that contains azulene that you can rub on externally for reducing inflammation of stings, bites, rashes, burns, and the like. It's very effective. And also internally, chamomile, German chamomile, is more flavorful and better tasting, so it's often used for kids. It's called manzanilla in Mexican, South America, different other countries, called manzanillo. Actually, let's see, manzanilla, and makes a very good drink for settling the digestion and also calming the spirit. So it's often used for fussy kids with colic and they're nervous and upset. Chamomile tea is safe for use during pregnancy and certainly one of the most important herbal teas that we can use during that time. Now let's move on to triterpenes. Triterpenes are made up of six isoprene units, 5 carbon units, and so you get 30 carbons. You can see that they are produced in these 6-membered rings, which is the most stable and compact form of these molecules. And they might have 4, 5, or 6 rings. They're called phytosterols sometimes, or phytosteroids or sterols. But they don't have an action like human steroids, like estrogen or testosterone or progesterone. They just don't act like that. But in plants, they might have hormonal effects. But in humans, if you make a tea of a plant that has these types of triterpenes in them, like reishi, for instance, for one, can affect the nervous system. It can calm the nervous system. And it's also found in, let me see if I have, here's diasgenin right here, which is one of the most important triterpenes. Because it's the precursor of progesterone, testosterone, and estrogen. And a chemist in the Midwestern United States in the 1950s, excuse me, figured out that Mexican wild yam, which is a very, very big tuber, maybe 25, 30 pounds, had a lot of diasgenin in it. And diasgenin it worked out to be a really good, and he somehow imagined how you could transform diasgenin into progesterone. And he went down to Mexico and he did figure it out how to produce progesterone cheaply and easily, and then from there they could get to estrogen or testosterone or cortisone for that matter as an anti-inflammatory. So as you know, these are huge, huge drugs or substances that are used for prescription drugs that can help a lot of people. They might harm some too, but in their natural form, diasgenin does not have this effect. It does not have a strong anti-inflammatory effect, and it does not have a hormone-like effect like progesterone might. So they have to convert it in a lab. Now, Russell Marker was quite an unusual chemist because he didn't. Nowadays, they would say, "Show me the money," if somebody had discovered something like that, something as important as that. But he actually refused to sell the patent to Merck, who was a big pharmaceutical company. They wanted to produce it and make a lot of money out of it. But, excuse me, Russell Marker said no. In fact, he set up 2 other factories to produce progesterone from Mexican wild yam and to compete with each other. So it would be in the public domain, and it has remained in the public domain. Nowadays, they have progestin, which is produced from horse urine, and that's a synthetic compound. So synthetic estrogen, yes, there are a lot of them prescribed, and of course the drug company can patent those and they can make a lot more money. But good old estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, they can't patent those. Those are actually human compounds, and they're found in nature. So it's not so easy to patent those. And you might say that those are bioidentical hormones. And some pharmacists still make bioidentical estrogen. It might have estrone, estradiol, and estriol in it, the 3 most active human estrogens. And a woman might take that and we consider that has less side effects and is less problematic as far as promoting I don't know whether the studies can really support it, but for promoting or increasing the risk of reproductive cancers with the use of estrogen as a supplement. So anyway, it's an amazing story. But you can also find diasgenin in fenugreek seed and soy. So it's found in, there are some very common sources of diasgenin, and it is the starting material for all of these human hormones. Here's some other examples of plant steroids, or phytosterols. And from olive flowers and leaves, oleanic acid, which is very common, very widely distributed. Ursolic acid in the waxy coating of many leaves and fruits like uva ursi, and beta-amirin, which is found in a number of plants. It's very common in nature. So these are examples of plant steroids that have other effects, like maybe they would relax the gut or promote good digestion. Now, saponins are steroid glycosides of a certain type. You can see their structure there with the oxygen heterocyclic ring. So this saponin glycoside is found in ceanothus, and it's found it's found in soy, and it's found in ginseng as well. So when you take a ceanothus blossom or blossoms and you kind of squeeze it, or rub it between your hands with water, you can get abundant soap. So it really lathers up and gets really soapy. And that's really a soap that Native American Indian tribes could use, or peoples could use, to wash their clothes or to soap up and wash their bodies and wash the dirt off. It's really amazing when you take some flowers, or the fruits also work, and just rub it with water. And I always demonstrate that when I'm out in the field, because it's pretty amazing to see it. And so steroidal sapogenins are common in the lily family, in the Amaryllidaceae family, and the Dioscoraceae, or the wild yam family, but also found in ceanothus, which is the buckthorn family, Rhamnaceae. So here's ginseng, which does contain saponin glycosides. They're called ginsenosides, and they're mainly in the roots, as you're seeing right here. And so there are two major types. There's Panax ginseng, which is the Asian ginseng, or Renshen, which is added to many prescriptions in Chinese medicine for spleen qi weakness or deficiency, energy, and so forth. And then there's Panax quinquefolius, which is American ginseng, which is often used in prescriptions as a yin tonic for chronic inflammation, for counteracting chronic inflammation, and for counteracting stress in the body. And they both contain series of saponin glycosides called ginsenosides, and over 1,000 have been found.